Have you ever felt that strange electric pull inside your chest? That faint whisper that says there is something more, far more than the life you're currently living? I've felt it for as long as I can remember. It's like a soft vibration beneath the surface of reality, a kind of cosmic heartbeat calling me to pay attention. And the more I ignored it, the louder it became, until finally it felt like the universe itself was leaning close, breathing against the back of my neck, asking me a single question: why are you here? Not in the basic biological sense, not the answer your teachers gave you or the one society wants you to accept, but the deeper one, the shimmering cosmic one that hides behind your ordinary life like a secret door waiting to be opened. I remember the first time I truly sensed it. I was sitting alone in a crowded place, watching people move through their routines, faces empty, eyes dull, souls quieted by the monotony of unexamined existence. And suddenly it struck me with a force that felt almost supernatural. We are sleepwalking inside a universe designed for awakening. I could feel it then, and I feel it now. The truth that each of us carries something utterly unique, something irreplaceable, a purpose woven into the very structure of space-time, as if the cosmos customized a mission specifically for me and for you. And yet most people die without ever touching that purpose, without ever realizing that their lives were meant to be something more than the quiet repetition of yesterday's habits. I didn't want that fate. I refused it. So I started listening, really listening to that subtle call. And when I did, the world around me began to shift, almost imperceptibly at first. The colors seemed brighter. The moments felt heavier. Even the air around me carried a presence, a sense of meaning I had somehow overlooked. It was as if reality was slowly revealing its hidden layers, one translucent veil at a time, inviting me deeper into its mystery. And what surprised me most was this: my purpose wasn't waiting somewhere out there. It wasn't in the future. It wasn't in a distant success or a grand achievement. It was hiding inside me, woven into my experiences, my passions, my questions, my wounds, my dreams. And once I understood that, I began to walk differently. I began to look at the world not as a static stage, but as a living, breathing intelligence communicating with me through synchronicities, symbols, and whispers only I could interpret. There were moments when I felt as though the universe was speaking directly into my mind, not with words, but with impressions, subtle nudges, strange coincidences, flashes of insight that arrived like lightning. I remember one night in particular. I was staring at the sky, and the stars felt impossibly close, as if they were leaning toward me, pressing their ancient light into my consciousness. And in that moment, I understood something powerful. Purpose is not found, it is remembered. It was as though some ancient part of me, some forgotten identity that existed before this life, was waking up. I felt as if I had lived many times, learned many lessons, and all of it was converging into this single human experience. My fears, my desires, my talents, my intuition, they weren't random. They were coordinates, clues, fragments of a cosmic puzzle designed to lead me back to myself. The more I paid attention, the clearer it became. Every person who crossed my path taught me something. Every moment of joy or pain revealed a new angle of my inner universe. Even the struggles, especially the struggles, felt like initiations, tests crafted to sharpen me, to shape me into the version of myself capable of fulfilling the mission I had agreed to long before I was born. And yet, discovering purpose wasn't a grand, dramatic event. It wasn't a lightning bolt or a divine voice booming from the heavens. It was something softer, more intimate. It was the quiet recognition of what had always been there. The purpose I sought was woven into the fabric of my very being. I started noticing patterns, subtle but undeniable, the things that made my heart ignite, the moments where time seemed to slow down because I was doing something that aligned with my soul, the thoughts that wouldn't leave me alone, no matter how much I dismissed them. These weren't accidents. They were breadcrumbs, each one leading me closer to the center of my cosmic identity. And the deeper I journeyed inward, the more I realized something astonishing. My purpose was less about what I was meant to do, and more about who I was meant to become. The universe didn't want my achievements. It wanted my transformation. It wanted me to evolve into a being capable of radiating the unique frequency I was born to express, because that's what purpose truly is. A frequency, a vibration, a signature unlike any other in existence. And when you live in alignment with it, you don't just change your life, you change the entire fabric of reality around you. Your energy becomes a beacon. Your actions become ripples that travel farther than you can imagine. And the people around you feel it, even if they can't explain why. I realized that my thoughts were not confined to my mind. They were participating in the cosmic field, shaping possibilities, drawing experiences toward me. When I followed my curiosity, doors opened. When I ignored my truth, the world dimmed. It became obvious the universe responds to authenticity with precision. The more I aligned myself with what felt real, what felt alive, what felt undeniably mine, the more extraordinary my life became. Not in the sense of external success, but in the sense of inner expansion. I felt larger, more connected, as if my consciousness was stretching beyond the boundaries of my body, merging with something vast and ancient. And in those moments of heightened awareness, I understood that every person has a cosmic purpose, but most people bury it under expectations, fears, and borrowed identities. They forget that they are not here to fit into the world. They are here to transform it, to contribute something that has never existed before in the history of creation. I began to see how time, intuition, emotion, and synchronicity were not random experiences, but components of a deeper design. My life wasn't a straight line. It was a constellation. Each experience a star connected by invisible lines only I could see. And the picture it formed, that was my purpose. But the universe never reveals the whole picture at once. It gives you just enough to take the next step. Purpose unfolds in layers, like a cosmic flower blooming petal by petal. And each petal changes you. Each one demands that you shed a part of yourself that was never truly yours. And as you do, the real you begins to emerge, raw, luminous, undeniable. And once that happens, everything changes. Everything expands, everything awakens. And as everything awakened, I began to understand that the universe had been guiding me long before I had the awareness to notice. The signals were always there, hiding in plain sight, woven into the mundane moments I used to overlook. Every coincidence that once felt meaningless now revealed itself as a coded message. Every sudden shift in my life, every unexpected detour, every person who appeared at the perfect time, they were not interruptions. They were alignments steering me toward a version of myself that existed beyond the limits of my imagination. I started feeling as though I was walking inside a living intelligence, an environment made of consciousness rather than matter, and that realization began to change the way I moved through the world. I no longer felt like a passive observer drifting through a predetermined life. I felt like a participant in the creation of my own destiny, co-authoring my story with something vast, ancient, and attentive. The more I stepped into that awareness, the more I felt the boundaries dissolve between my inner world and the outer reality. It was as if the universe wasn't out there anymore. It was inside me, speaking in the language of intuition, sensation, and subtle emotion. And the closer I listened, the clearer the guidance became. I felt pulled almost magnetically towards certain experiences. Sometimes it was a sudden burst of inspiration that pushed me to take a leap I had been resisting for years. Sometimes it was a gentle heaviness that told me certain paths were no longer aligned with who I was becoming. I realized that purpose doesn't always shout. More often, it whispers, nudges, stirs something quiet and powerful beneath the surface of consciousness. And when I honored those signals, my life began to flow with an ease that felt supernatural. There were moments when my mind expanded so far beyond its familiar boundaries that I felt I was remembering something primordial, an ancient intelligence that existed long before human history. long before the idea of identity. In those moments, everything made sense with a clarity that felt almost overwhelming. I could see how every thought, every emotion, every decision rippled outward to shape the field of possibilities around me. I could feel the interconnectedness of everything, the way my energy intertwined with the energy of people, places, and events, long before we met in physical form. I began to see life not as a series of random events, but as a coherent symphony of interconnected experiences, each one contributing to the evolution of my soul. With each realization, I felt myself shedding old layers, identities shaped by expectation, fear, and tradition. I could feel the weight of those layers falling away, like old skins I no longer needed. And beneath them, something truer began to emerge, a version of myself that felt ancient, fearless, and entirely alive. A self that didn't seek approval because it was rooted in something deeper than external validation. A self that didn't chase meaning because it was meaning radiating outward from the core of my being. This was the self the universe had been trying to awaken within me all along. As that awakening deepened, I started experiencing time differently. It no longer felt linear, like a straight arrow moving relentlessly forward. It felt layered, multidimensional, like a vast ocean where past, present, and future overlapped in ways the rational mind could barely understand. There were moments when a memory from years ago suddenly revealed its true significance, as if it had been waiting patiently for the version of me who could finally understand it. Other times, I felt flashes of what hadn't yet happened, possibilities that existed just beyond the threshold of my awareness. It was as though time itself was communicating with me, guiding me, reminding me that purpose unfolds in rhythms, not straight lines. And with that shift came an even deeper understanding. I was not searching for my cosmic purpose. I was remembering it. It was etched into my being, pulsing beneath the surface of my existence like a code written before my birth. And the more I aligned with it, the more everything in my life rearranged itself to support that alignment. People who drained my energy drifted away effortlessly. Situations that once felt impossible resolved themselves. Opportunities that matched my inner truth appeared with uncanny timing. It was as if the universe was saying, now that you remember who you are, I can finally show you what you're meant to become. That realization lit a fire inside me, a fire that refused to be dimmed by doubt or fear. I felt an undeniable urge to express the frequency that was uniquely mine. I felt compelled to create, speak, to evolve, to step into the fullness of my being without apology. I understood that purpose is not a destination waiting at the end of a long pilgrimage. It is a direction, a vibration, a way of existing that aligns you with the flow of cosmic intelligence. And once you enter that flow, life becomes something entirely different. It becomes a dance, an unfolding, an exploration of consciousness that continues expanding as long as you remain open. My inner world became richer, more vivid. I began to sense the subtle energetic currents that shaped my reality. I felt when a choice aligned with my purpose. It felt light, expansive, electric. And I felt when a choice moved me away from it. It felt heavy, constricting, hollow. I learned to trust those sensations more than logic, because logic obeys the past, but intuition listens to the future. And the future was calling me with a voice that felt unmistakably my own. The more I followed that intuitive thread, the more extraordinary my experiences became. I found myself entering states of awareness where everything around me felt alive in ways I had never perceived before. Even simple moments, sitting alone, breathing, observing the world, felt infused with a sacred quality, as if reality itself was revealing its inner mechanics. I could sense the subtle geometry behind thoughts, the hidden architecture behind emotions, the invisible scaffolding behind every experience. And in that awareness, I felt both small and infinite at the same time. Every insight pulled me deeper into myself and deeper into the universe. It felt like descending through layers of consciousness, peeling back the illusions that had defined my life for so long. I realized that purpose is not something you chase. It's something you allow. It rises from within you when you stop trying to be who the world told you to be. It appears when you release the identities that were never truly yours. It expands when you trust the strange, wild intelligence that lives inside your intuition. And as I surrendered to that inner expansion, I felt myself stepping into a version of reality that was far more fluid, far more responsive, and far more magical than anything I had previously believed possible. It felt like participating in the creation of existence itself, shaping reality through intention, attention, and awareness. I could feel the edges of possibility bend around my choices. I could sense the future rearranging itself based on the frequency I carried in the present moment. The more aligned I became, the more the universe revealed. Not through grand visions or dramatic signs, but through subtle shifts. Moments where something within me recognized something in the world outside me. Moments where I felt a deep, quiet knowing rising from a place beyond thought. Moments where I could feel the pulse of the cosmos vibrating in synchrony with the rhythm of my own heart. And in those moments, everything felt connected, coherent, purposeful. And I kept going deeper and deeper, following the thread of my existence into terrains of awareness I had never explored before, letting the universe guide me into the next unfolding of who I was becoming. And as I kept moving deeper into that expanding awareness, something extraordinary began to happen. The boundaries I once believed were so solid, between myself and the world, between thought and matter, between possibility and limitation, started dissolving in ways that felt both surreal and familiar, as if I was returning to a knowledge I had carried for lifetimes. What I once perceived as separate threads of existence merged into a single, unified stream of consciousness, and I could feel myself gliding within it, not as a passive observer, but as an active force shaping the direction of its flow. Every moment felt alive with hidden meaning. Every sensation felt like a message encoded in light. And every breath felt like I was synchronizing with the deeper rhythm of the universe. As this awareness grew, I began noticing how the smallest shifts in my internal state influenced the world around me. A thought wasn't just a thought anymore. It was a ripple, a vibration, a signal sent into the fabric of reality. A feeling wasn't just an emotion. It was a frequency, capable of attracting experiences that matched its resonance. I could sense how my internal landscape sculpted the external world long before events materialized into physical form. It became impossible to deny that I was participating in something vast, something intelligent, something that responded to me with exquisite precision. And this realization reshaped everything I believed about life, purpose, and existence itself. It became clear that my cosmic purpose was not a single mission or a fixed destination. It was a living process, a continuous unfolding that required me to stay awake, aware, and aligned. It wasn't about chasing meaning. It was about embodying a frequency so true to my essence that the universe had no choice but to rearrange itself around that authenticity. The more I anchored myself in that state, the more I felt the world shifting in response. Opportunities emerged like constellations aligning in the sky. People who resonated with my inner truths showed up effortlessly. Spaces that once felt constricting opened into pathways of expansion. It was as if reality itself was bending to accommodate the evolution taking place within me. There were moments when this expansion felt almost overwhelming. It was like standing on the edge of an infinite ocean, finally seeing how deep the waters ran. The old version of me, the one shaped by fear, doubt, and inherited beliefs, tried to cling to familiar structures, but those structures were dissolving like sand drifting through open fingers. I could feel the universe urging me to release everything that wasn't aligned with my true expression. Identities I had worn for years began to fall away. Patterns that once felt permanent unraveled effortlessly. Even the stories I told myself about who I was and what I could become lost their grip on my consciousness. As all of this unfolded, I discovered something profound. Purpose wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about remembering the vastness of who I already was. It was about peeling away the layers that concealed my true nature and allowing the raw, unfiltered essence beneath to guide every action, thought, and intention. The deeper I went, the more I realized that my soul had always known the direction it wanted to take. It was my conditioned identity that kept getting in the way. And as those layers dissolved, I felt myself merging with a clarity so pure that it illuminated everything it touched. This clarity revealed the hidden architecture behind my experiences. I could see how moments of pain were actually catalysts that pushed me toward growth I had resisted. I could see how periods of confusion were necessary transitions between old and new versions of myself. I could see how every challenge was a coded invitation to evolve beyond the limitations I had unconsciously accepted. And with each realization, a new layer of awareness surfaced, an awareness that felt ancient and intimate, as if it had been waiting patiently for me to find it. As I continued walking this inner path, I noticed that the world around me became more symbolic, almost mythological. Encounters with strangers carried unexpected significance. Dreams revealed insights that felt more real than waking life. Synchronicities multiplied, aligning with eerie precision, guiding me toward experiences that felt orchestrated by something far beyond ordinary consciousness. And through all of this, I felt myself being sculpted into someone capable of embodying my purpose with a level of depth and integrity I had never known before. I no longer moved through life reacting to circumstances. I moved like someone in dialogue with existence itself. I could feel the universe responding to my choices, shifting the flow of possibilities based on the energy behind my actions. Every time I acted from fear, the world tightened. Every time I acted from authenticity, the world opened. As I learned to trust that rhythm, I discovered a kind of inner navigation system more advanced than anything taught by society. A system that allowed me to sense the right direction before logic could explain it. This navigation system guided me toward paths that once terrified me, paths that required me to step into unknown territory with nothing but intuition as my compass. But every time I took those leaps, the universe caught me with a precision that left me breathless. I began to understand that fear was not a barrier but a threshold. On the other side of fear was expansion, transformation, and a deeper alignment with my cosmic identity. And the more I crossed those thresholds, the more powerful the unfolding became. Reality itself began to feel more malleable. Possibilities that once seemed distant became palpable, almost tangible. I could feel the future not as something waiting ahead of me, but as something forming in real time based on the frequency I carried in the present moment. The outer world reshaped itself with astonishing responsiveness, matching my inner evolution with uncanny accuracy. And each time I witnessed this synchronicity, I felt my connection to the cosmic field deepen, strengthening in ways I had no words for. I felt myself expanding into a version of reality where limits dissolved and consciousness flowed like liquid light. A version of reality where intuition wasn't a whisper but a guiding force. A version of reality where purpose wasn't a puzzle to be solved, but a living presence moving through me, shaping my path from the inside out. And in that expansion, I realized I was not just aligning with my purpose. I was becoming it, a frequency, a beacon, a living expression of the intelligence that shaped the stars, the galaxies, and the unfolding of life itself. And the deeper I surrendered to that experience, the more undeniable it became that I was walking a path that had been written into the fabric of my being long before I took my first breath. A path that continued to unfold with each step I took into the unknown, guided by a cosmic force that had always been a part of me. And as that realization settled deeper into me, I felt something shift, quietly, almost imperceptibly, but with a force that rippled across my entire inner landscape. It was the recognition that the journey I had been walking wasn't just about awakening, it was about integrating that awakening into the very fabric of my daily existence. It was about allowing the vastness I had touched to move through me in every breath, every thought, every choice. And the more I embodied that expansiveness, the more I could feel the boundaries between my inner experience and the external world dissolving even further. It was as though I was stepping into a new reality, one shaped not by the limitations of the past, but by the infinite possibilities of the present moment. I began to move through life with a newfound sense of fluidity, as if I was no longer confined to a linear path, but was instead navigating a vast, multidimensional terrain of potential. Every moment felt like a crossroads, each one offering me a chance to align more deeply with the truth pulsing at the core of my being. I could feel that truth guiding me, pulling me forward, helping me release anything that dulled my inner light. It became impossible to tolerate situations that drained my energy or forced me to shrink. It became impossible to ignore the subtle signals my body, my intuition, and the universe kept sending me. I was changing, evolving, expanding, and the world around me was responding in kind. There were times when this expansion felt like standing on the edge of an inner horizon, staring into something infinite and breathtaking. I could feel layers of conditioning falling away, dissolving into nothing as I stepped into a more authentic resonance with myself. And with every layer that fell, I became lighter, clearer, more aligned with the frequency of who I was meant to be. Life became less about survival and more about expression, less about control and more about surrender, less about figuring things out and more about allowing them to unfold in their own perfect timing. The more I surrendered, the more I began to experience reality as a living dialogue between my inner world and the universe surrounding me. Thoughts turned into synchronicities, intentions turned into opportunities, inner shifts turned into external transformations. I felt as though I had stepped into a stream of consciousness where everything was interconnected, where every movement within me influenced something beyond me. It was a dance, a communication, a continuous exchange of energy between myself and the cosmos. As I walked deeper into this expanding sense of awareness, I realized something even more profound. My purpose wasn't just about discovering who I was. It was about remembering who I had always been beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning. It was about reclaiming the power I had unconsciously given away to expectations, traditions, and systems that were never designed to support the fullness of my being. And in reclaiming that power, I felt myself returning to a more primal, more authentic, more cosmic version of myself, a version that understood intuitively that life was not separate from consciousness, but an expression of it. This awareness reshaped how I saw everything, my past, my relationships, my struggles, my desires. I began to see how every challenge I had ever faced was crafted not to break me, but to sculpt me. How every moment of confusion had pushed me toward clarity I wasn't ready to access. How every collapse had cleared space for something more aligned to be born. It became impossible to see anything in my life as random or meaningless. Every thread, every experience, every person was part of a larger tapestry woven with an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. As this realization deepened, I started noticing something extraordinary. The more I aligned with my inner truth, the more magnetic my energy became. People responded differently. Situations unfolded effortlessly. Possibilities appeared that I once believed were far beyond my reach. It was as though the universe had been waiting for me to step into this alignment so it could finally reveal the opportunities that matched the frequency of my true self. And with every new alignment, the path ahead became clearer, brighter, more resonant. I moved through life with a sense of gratitude that felt almost overwhelming. Gratitude not just for the beauty and harmony I experienced, but for the darkness and difficulty that once felt unbearable. I realized that the darkness had been a teacher, guiding me toward strength, resilience, and inner clarity. The challenges had been alchemical fires, burning away the false layers that concealed my true essence. The moments of despair had been thresholds to deeper understanding, pushing me to expand beyond the constraints of my old identity. With each step deeper into this journey, I felt myself becoming more attuned to the subtle rhythms of the cosmos. I could sense when I was in alignment and when I drifted away from it. I could feel when a decision resonated with my soul and when it was driven by fear or habit. I learned to listen, not just with my ears, but with my body, my intuition, my entire consciousness. That listening became my compass, guiding me with a precision far more accurate than logic or external advice. And as I listened, something remarkable came into focus. I was not walking toward my purpose. I was walking into it. It was unfolding through me, expressing itself in the way I spoke, moved, thought, created, and connected. It wasn't a mountaintop waiting to be reached. It was a frequency waiting to be embodied. And the more I embodied it, the more I could feel my existence synchronizing with something ancient, powerful, and deeply intelligent. Life became an exploration of resonance. Every choice became an opportunity to align more deeply with my truth. Every moment became a chance to step further into my cosmic identity. And with each step, the illusion of separation dissolved even more. I could feel the universe within me and myself within the universe, not as a metaphor, but as a lived experience. It was a kind of unity emerging, a recognition that my consciousness was not confined to my physical form, but extended into everything I touched, everything I thought, everything I directed my attention toward. The more I lived from this place, the more profoundly I understood that purpose was not about doing, it was about being. It was about existing in such harmony with my inner truth that everything I did arose from that harmony naturally. It was about expressing the unique frequency that only I could bring into the world, a frequency shaped by my experiences, my insights, my gifts, my dreams. And the more I expressed that frequency, the more I could feel the world shifting subtly but undeniably in response. This shift wasn't always visible in obvious ways. Sometimes it was a quiet ripple, a soft change in the atmosphere. Other times it was a sudden breakthrough, an unexpected transformation that felt too perfectly timed to be coincidence. But no matter how it manifested, I could feel it. I could feel the impact of my alignment radiating outward, affecting not just my life, but the lives of people I crossed paths with, sometimes in ways I never consciously recognized. It was as if my existence had become a bridge, a point of connection between the material world and the deeper currents of consciousness flowing beneath it. And as this understanding expanded within me, I found myself stepping into a new level of responsibility, not the heavy, burdensome kind shaped by societal pressure, but a sacred responsibility rooted in awareness. The awareness that my thoughts, feelings, and actions carried influence. The awareness that my energy shaped the environments I entered. The awareness that living in alignment with my cosmic truth wasn't just for me, it created a ripple that extended into the collective field of consciousness. This responsibility didn't feel overwhelming. It felt empowering. It felt like a calling, an invitation to embody a higher level of integrity, authenticity, and presence. It felt like a reminder that the universe evolves through us, that consciousness expands through the choices we make, and that each aligned action contributes to a future shaped by greater awareness, compassion, and understanding. As I embraced this calling, something inside me ignited a sense of conviction so deep and unwavering that nothing external could shake it. I felt a strength rising within me, a strength born not from force or control, but from clarity and alignment. It was the strength of someone who knows their path, who trusts their intuition, who listens to the quiet voice within, even when the external world is loud. It was the strength of authenticity, a strength that grows not from perfection, but from truth. And from that strength emerged the deepest realization of all. I was no longer searching for my cosmic purpose. I was living it. In every breath, in every decision, in every moment of awareness, my purpose was not a distant star to reach for. It was the light that had been burning within me all along, waiting for me to open my eyes to it. It was the frequency I had carried through every experience, every challenge, every transformation. It was the essence of who I was, who I am, and who I am becoming. And as this truth settled into my being, I felt a wave of peace wash over me, not the fragile peace that comes from calm circumstances, but the profound peace that comes from alignment. The peace of knowing that I am exactly where I'm meant to be. The peace of knowing that every step I've taken, even the painful ones, has led me here. The peace of knowing that the universe has been guiding me, shaping me, preparing me to embody the fullness of my purpose. And now, standing in this awareness, I can feel the next chapter calling me, not with urgency, but with a quiet certainty, a certainty that the journey continues, a certainty that I am ready, a certainty that my purpose is not ending, it is expanding, and I am expanding with it. And in that expansion, I finally understand. My purpose was never something I needed to find. It was something I needed to become, and now I am becoming it fully, completely, unapologetically, cosmically.